The first thing I packed was the cactus. Not the clothes, not my toothbrush. The cactus. She never watered it. Called it Reuben's ugly little spike ball. Said it didn't match the decor. But it sat on the windowsill for 3 years, quietly surviving, just like I did. And that morning, when the apartment still smelled like her vanilla body spray and deceit, I wrapped it in an old hoodie and placed it carefully in a box labeled "Do Not Crush." She was in Puerto Vallarta. At least, that's what the group text said. Jess had posted a boomerang of 3 margaritas clinking, with a caption, "Girls only mate sparkles." I stared at the screen, trying to figure out which hand was hers. None of them had her chipped green nail polish. None of them wore that silver thumb ring she claimed she lost a month ago. But one had a man's shadow in the background. I didn't message her. Didn't confront. Didn't panic. I closed Instagram, turned off my phone, and walked to the closet. Everything felt still, like the moment right before a car crash. It wasn't rage. It wasn't even heartbreak. It was more like stepping out of anesthesia and realizing the surgeon forgot to sew you up. There were things I already knew. She'd kissed someone else. She laughed at my texts with someone else in her bed. She'd told her friends she was mentally checked out. But what I didn't know was how easy it would be to start putting my life into boxes. I left the espresso machine. She loved it more than she ever loved mornings with me. I left the framed print she said reminded her of Paris, even though she'd never been. I left the blanket her mom crocheted for our wedding gift, because I always hated the scratchy feel of it and the way it smelled like lavender and judgment. But I took the letters. She didn't know I still had them. The ones she wrote back when she was in grad school, and we thought bagels and a bottle of gas station wine were luxury. I kept them in an old shoebox under the bed. Her handwriting looked different back then, softer, like she still cared how her words landed. One of them ended with, "If I ever stop seeing you, Rue, like really seeing you, promise me you'll walk away. Don't stay with a ghost." So I didn't. While she posed on beaches and tagged locations I knew she wasn't in, I stripped our apartment of everything that was mine. Everything she forgot I brought into this place. The Wi-Fi router. The old Nintendo Switch. The mug with the tiny crack she always said grossed her out. I didn't leave a note. I didn't slam the door. I just carried the cactus down the stairs, past the neighbor who always said we looked like a power couple, and tossed the keys into the mailbox slot. She never thought I'd leave, and I never thought I'd do it without crying. But I didn't cry. Not yet. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was emotional or heartbroken. No, that came later. That night, it was logistics. Calculations. What could fit in my car? What I could carry in one trip. What I could leave behind without it becoming an excuse for her to find me later. It wasn't about revenge. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted out, clean, quiet, and invisible. My Corolla wasn't meant for a dramatic escape. It still smelled like stale fries and the anxiety sweat of someone who once hyperventilated in a drive-through line. But I wiped it down, vacuumed the trunk, folded down the back seats. I told myself this was preparation, but really it was a funeral. For everything I'd tried to build with someone who never planned to stay. The next morning, I packed in silence. I left the TV, left the couch we bought together, the one she later called cheap and lumpy when her new designer friend came over. I left the bookshelf I built by hand that she covered in plants she never watered. I left the memories that always meant more to me than to her. But I took the curtains. She hated them, said they were too dark for her vibe. They were mine before they were ours. And now they were mine again. I wrapped the rods in towels so they wouldn't scratch the glass and shoved them into the back seat. It felt stupid, honestly, like stealing back parts of myself and still asking permission in my head. But I did it anyway. I had to take something. At some point, I found her old planner on the counter, one of those expensive leather-bound ones she used to pretend to be organized with. I flipped it open, not because I wanted to, but because I needed one last hit of pain before I left. March 12th. Tea dinner, wine glass, black heart. No other context. That was me. I remembered that dinner. She wore red. She barely looked at me. I paid. We fought in the car after because I asked if she was okay. She said I was suffocating her. March 13th. Bryce at hotel, kiss mark, no distractions. My heart thudded. She used the kiss emoji. She never even sent me the heart ones anymore. I closed the planner. I didn't cry. I just stood there, hunched over the kitchen counter, one hand gripping the edge so hard my fingers turned white. Then I took a deep breath, tore out the March page, folded it twice, and shoved it in my pocket like it was evidence. Not that I planned to show anyone. Just something to hold. Something to remind me that leaving wasn't overreacting. It was survival. And just when I thought I was done, the cat jumped into the suitcase. Her name was Echo. Emily never wanted her, claimed she was allergic, but somehow never sneezed. Echo always curled up on my side of the bed, always waited for me at the door when I got home. I stared at her for a long time, scratching behind her ears. "You're not mine," I whispered. "But I think I need you to be." She blinked slowly, stayed put. So I zipped the suitcase around her, left the flap open, and carried it out to the car like smuggling love past a border checkpoint. By noon, everything I cared about was gone from the apartment. Every drawer, every shelf, every closet purged of me. I didn't leave a single sock. No note. No final message. She'd find the emptiness and have to fill in the blanks herself. But I did do one thing. One petty, childish, deeply satisfying thing. I logged into our shared Netflix account and changed the profile name from Emily and Rue Red Heart to just Ghost. Then I deleted the second profile entirely. By the time her plane landed, I was already on the road. She had no idea where I went, but she was about to find out what it felt like to come home to nothing. I didn't turn my phone on for the first 6 hours. Just drove. Somewhere between Ohio and West Virginia. The panic set in, not hers, mine. Not because I missed her. Not even because I felt guilty. But because I still couldn't figure out if I was the villain or the idiot in this story. Maybe both. I pulled into a gas station with blinking yellow lights and a bathroom that smelled like vinegar and regret. Echo meowed from the back seat, like she was filing a complaint. I gave her some water and stood under the flickering canopy lights, phone in my hand, thumb hovering over the power button like I was about to detonate a bomb. It was 9:14 p.m. when I turned it back on. No messages. I refreshed again. Still nothing. A wave of confusion hit me first, then disappointment, then shame. What kind of man leaves without a trace, expecting an explosion, and gets silence? I scrolled aimlessly, wondering if maybe she didn't care. Maybe she was with Bryce. Maybe she was drunk in a pool somewhere laughing at how predictable I'd always been. I almost convinced myself I'd overreacted, that I'd dramatized it all in my head like some sad movie character who wants to be betrayed so they have a reason to feel something. But then, at 9:32, her name lit up. "Emily, where the hell are you?" I stared at the screen. No, "Are you okay?" No, "What's going on?" No fear. No concern. Just rage. Sharp, loud, all caps rage. And that told me everything I needed to know. Before I could reply, another one came in. "Emily, is this some pathetic stunt? You're embarrassing yourself." I smiled. Not because it was funny, but because I finally saw her for what she was. Not confused. Not heartbroken. Just pissed she wasn't in control anymore. I didn't respond. I just kept driving. By midnight, the messages turned into voicemails. I played them out loud with the windows down. The first one was all fury. "You left? While I was out of town. Are you serious? What kind of coward does that? What am I supposed to tell people?" The second voicemail was quieter. Measured. "You took the cat? Really, Ruben? What the hell is wrong with you?" The third one. I'll admit, it hurt. "You know what? I'm glad. I was going to ask for space anyway. You just made it easier. You think leaving first makes you strong? It just proves you're weak. You couldn't even face me." And that was when I knew I could never go back. She didn't miss me. She missed control. She missed the guarantee that I'd always be waiting, apologizing, second-guessing myself. But now she was the one guessing. And it was killing her. At 1:07 a.m., she finally said something real. "I know about Lindsay's email. You think you know everything, but you don't. You never asked. You just assumed. That's always been your problem." I parked at a cheap motel near a Waffle House. The kind of place where the bedspread feels like sandpaper and the walls are thin enough to hear a stranger's dreams. I lay there, Echo curled at my feet, playing that message over and over. She was right. I had assumed. I never asked about Bryce. Or Lindsay. Or the pictures. I never asked because I didn't want more lies. I didn't want her to talk me out of leaving. And deep down, I knew the truth was worse than any excuse she could have made. I didn't sleep. I just stared at the cracked ceiling, wondering how many other men had done this. Left in silence. Vanished while their wives posted filtered stories and group selfies. I wondered if any of them ever looked back. I told myself I wouldn't. But the next morning, I opened her Instagram. She'd posted a photo of a mimosa by the pool, captioned it, "Nothing ruins my peace, Victory," and there was no mention of me, no mention of the empty apartment, no sign that anything in her life had changed, except I knew her, and I knew that post wasn't peace. It was war. She landed the next day. I didn't need to ask. I saw it all on her story. There she was in the Uber, sunglasses on, lips pursed like she was shooting an ad for a perfume called Denial. The caption said, "Back to reality, weary face," and I couldn't help but laugh. Reality had been waiting for her. Bare walls, empty drawers, a missing man, and a stolen cat. I parked outside a diner 3 towns over, nursing a coffee I didn't want and refreshing my email like I expected something important to appear. Nothing did. Just some spam, an old receipt from a fantasy football league I forgot to cancel, and a confirmation from U-Haul that the trailer was returned. Like a tiny digital tombstone. Here lies everything I carried with me when I stopped being hers. At 5:43 p.m., the messages came in. First, "Emily, what the hell?" Then, "Emily, Ruben, I'm not joking. Where is all your stuff? Where is Echo?" Then came the missed calls. 4 in a row. I watched the screen light up in the passenger seat, but I didn't answer. I let her panic stew for an hour before I texted back. "Me. I left. You don't need to worry about me anymore." No emojis. No punctuation. Just enough words to prove I wasn't dead, but not enough to soothe her. She called again. I answered. "You left?" Her voice was shaking. "Like, actually gone? Like you moved out?" "I told you I would if you ever stopped seeing me," I said. "You stopped a long time ago." "Ruben, don't do this. Don't be dramatic." I almost laughed. Don't be dramatic? I'd peeled myself out of a 7-year relationship like it was old wallpaper, erased myself from the apartment like a ghost afraid of being spotted. That wasn't drama. That was mercy. For both of us. "I didn't take anything that wasn't mine," I said. "I didn't break anything. Didn't leave a note. Didn't even change the locks. You can still come home to your kingdom. It's just missing the servant." She was quiet for a long time. Then she whispered, "What do you want?" And that's when it hit me. I didn't want anything. I didn't want revenge. Didn't want closure. Didn't want her to beg or cry or send some long-winded apology blaming it on childhood trauma and stress from work. I just wanted distance. Silence. The slow crawl back to something that felt like myself. "I want to be done," I said. Then I hung up. The next few hours were a blur of calls I ignored, voicemails I deleted before listening, and one last Instagram story I wish I hadn't seen. It was a photo of our apartment, captioned, "He actually left." Wow. Imagine being this insecure. She always had a way of flipping the story to make herself the victim. It didn't even sting anymore. It just confirmed what I'd known for months. She never really saw me. She saw the version of me that did what she wanted, laughed when she needed attention, shut up when she needed space. But the real me, the one who cried folding her laundry, who memorized the pattern of lies in her planner, who packed his cactus and cat into the back of a beat-up Corolla, that guy? She never bothered to meet him. That night, I stayed at a cheap roadside inn with walls thin enough to hear every stranger's regret. I lay there in the dark, Echo curled up in my lap, and stared at the ceiling fan spinning above me like it was trying to rewind time. And then my phone buzzed again. A new message. Not from Emily. From someone I didn't recognize. Unknown number. "You should check your email. I think you only saw part of the truth." I stared at that message for a long time. The screen glowed like a warning flare in the dark motel room. Echo shifted in my lap, annoyed I'd moved. I whispered, "Sorry," as if I hadn't already dragged her into the wreckage of my life. "You should check your email. I think you only saw part of the truth." The number wasn't saved. No name. Just 7 words that somehow made my stomach drop harder than the photos had. Part of me wanted to block it. Pretend it was spam. Some bot or troll trying to stir drama from the ashes. But another part, the quiet, twisted part that still needed to know everything, opened Gmail. Nothing new. I refreshed. Still nothing. And then, just as I was about to close it, a message appeared. No subject. No sender name. Just an address. burnertruth@gmail.com. I opened it. Inside were screenshots. No explanation. No greetings. Just images. The first was a message thread between Emily and Bryce. But not the Bryce I thought I knew. This wasn't a boyfriend. Not a secret lover. He was her cousin. Not even a close one. Some out there family connection through her dad's second marriage. They were joking about Vegas, about pretending to be a couple to score discounts. A thread full of sarcasm and emojis and inappropriate inside jokes, but nothing romantic, nothing physical. I scrolled down. There were more screenshots. A long chain of messages between Emily and someone named Tanner. That name I hadn't seen before. That was new. The way they texted, it was different. Shorter. Terse. He kept asking when she was telling the husband. Said things like, "You promised after the trip." One message stood out more than the rest. "I don't want to sneak around anymore. He's either gone by next month or I'm done." And her reply? "Relax. He's spineless. He'll never leave unless I make him." I stopped breathing. That line, "unless I make him," it repeated in my head like a song I couldn't turn off. All this time, I thought I was the one who left, that I finally grew a spine. But maybe she was counting on it. Maybe she wanted me to find those clues, to see the planner, to pack and go like it was my decision. Suddenly, everything started to look different. The late nights, the passive-aggressive fights, the unlocked phone with just enough suspicious messages to keep me paranoid, the emotional whiplash of hot and cold, love and indifference. Was it all bait? A slow psychological push to make me quit first so she wouldn't have to? I felt sick. I slammed the laptop shut and sat there in the dark with my hands over my face. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even sad. I just felt hollow, like I'd been tricked out of my own breakdown. Echo jumped down from my lap, paced the room once, then curled up in the corner, eyes watching me like she didn't trust I'd stay solid much longer. Smart cat. I didn't sleep that night. Again, I sat on the edge of the bed flipping through every memory of the last 6 months, reinterpreting them like a detective who realizes the killer was in the first scene all along. The night she came home drunk and cried for an hour about not knowing who she was anymore. The time she said she missed being alone. The weird, performative kisses in front of her friends that felt more like PR moves than affection. They weren't random. They were deliberate cracks in the foundation. And I walked out thinking I was taking control when I was just walking straight into the narrative she designed for me. I thought I was escaping, but I was being released. At 4:23 a.m., I got one more message from the unknown number. Unknown. Now that you know, are you going to let her win? I should have ignored the number. Should have deleted the email. Should have kept driving west until the only sound I could hear was my own breathing and the hum of tires over asphalt. But instead, I sat in that motel room for another full day, turning those screenshots over in my head like they were puzzle pieces I couldn't force to fit. I told myself it didn't matter who Tanner was. I'd left. I was free. But I wasn't. I was still orbiting her, like a planet that didn't know how to stop revolving around a dead sun. That night, against every ounce of better judgment, I texted the number back. "Me. Who are you?" No response. Not right away. At 1:14 a.m., it replied. Unknown. Someone who hates liars more than you do. You deserve to know how far it went. I waited, phone clutched in my hands like a lifeline. The room was dark again, save for the TV playing static because I'd forgotten to turn it off. I stared at that message, my heart thudding like I'd been caught doing something shameful. And then the phone rang. Unknown caller. I didn't move. Let it ring once. Twice. Then I answered. Silence. Then a voice. Female. Sharp. Nervous. Maybe late 20s. You don't know me. But I know Emily. My throat dried up. Who is this? I used to work with her. I quit 3 months ago because I couldn't. I couldn't watch what she was doing anymore. To you. To Tanner. To everyone. Tanner? I sat up. So he's real. Oh, he's real, she said. But he's not who you think he is. What does that mean? There was a pause, then a sigh like she was trying to decide how much damage to deliver. She told him you were emotionally abusive, that you controlled her, that you followed her, read her messages, tracked her phone. She made you the villain, Ruben, and he believed her. Everyone did. I couldn't speak. My tongue was stone. The room tilted. She said you were obsessed with her, that you threatened to hurt yourself if she ever left. She showed people screenshots, edited ones, I think. Messages you never sent. That's not true, I whispered. I never did any of that. I know. I figured that out later. But for a while she convinced me. Convinced all of us. She's good at it. I stood up too fast. The room swam again. I gripped the wall to steady myself. My mind raced back to every fight, every moment she'd cried in front of her friends, the way people looked at me like I was something fragile and pathetic. I always thought it was sympathy. But now I saw it for what it was: fear, pity, quiet judgment. She needed you to leave first, the voice continued, so she could be the one who got away. The victim. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because I believed her lies too long. And because you looked like someone who didn't deserve what she did to you. The line clicked. She hung up. I stood there in silence, phone still pressed to my ear long after the call ended. My chest was tight, like the grief had grown legs and was sitting on top of me, just watching. I'd been erased before I even left, painted out of my own story and replaced with a version of me that never existed. And everyone bought it, even me. I started pacing. I wanted to scream, punch something, call Emily, and demand she admit it all. But I knew how that would go. She'd cry. She'd say I was imagining things. She'd spin it again until I didn't know what was real anymore. And then I made the mistake of going back to her profile. She'd posted a video, a shaky, fake crying confessional. My husband just disappeared. I don't know where he is. If you see this, Rue, please come home. We can fix this. I miss you. The caption? Sometimes love gets twisted, but we all deserve redemption. I stared at her eyes. Not a single tear. Not a flicker of truth. Just performance. A mask. A new campaign to control the narrative. And people were commenting. Stay strong, girl. You deserve better. Men like that don't change. Protect your peace. I dropped the phone. It hit the motel carpet with a dull thud. Echo jumped onto the bed, startled, and I sat down slowly beside her, numb. The worst part wasn't that she was lying. It was that she'd already won. She got the sympathy, the followers, the spotlight. And I was just a whisper in the comments section, too soft to be believed, too broken to fight back. Until that night. Because that night, I made a decision. I wasn't going to fix the story. I was going to burn it down. I didn't sleep. Again. That made what, 4 days now? The motel walls blurred into each other, like the place itself was tired of watching me exist. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the cat food dish Echo hadn't touched. She probably sensed it, this thick, bitter air around me. The feeling of someone so used to being wronged, they start to doubt the color of the sky. I didn't cry. Not when I read her comments. Not when I rewatched the video for the 5th time, tracking her eye movements, looking for cracks in her face that would show it was all fake. But there weren't any. She was good. So good. Better than me. Better than most people. That kind of emotional con artist who could take your pain, wear it like perfume, and have strangers thanking her for it. She didn't care about me. She cared about the version of me she invented. The broken man. The clingy, emotionally manipulative husband who disappeared one day without warning. A ghost in a hoodie who stole her cat and her peace. That's what people were seeing. That's what she needed them to see. But I still had one thing she didn't. The truth. Not the kind of truth that screams. Not the kind that shows up with lawyers and restraining orders and vengeance. No, just the quiet kind. The kind you don't argue with. The kind that leaves its own trail like footprints in concrete. I opened my laptop and started writing. Not to her. To everyone else. I posted my side anonymously. No names. No accusations. No screenshots. Not yet. Just a story. The story of a man who folded leggings and cried over them. Who packed up his life into boxes while his wife sipped drinks poolside and joked about how soft he was. I wrote about the planner, the emails, the cactus. I told them everything. I didn't ask for pity. I just asked them to listen. I posted it on a quiet subreddit. One of those where people go to vent into the void. It didn't even have 100 active users. And somehow, it still blew up. The comments came in fast. Dude, I felt this in my bones. This sounds like someone I used to date. Word for word. She really rehearsed a breakup like a PR campaign? Echo deserves better. So do you. I wasn't trying to go viral. I wasn't trying to ruin her. But when people started digging, they connected dots I hadn't even thought to draw. Someone recognized the planner style from one of her posts. Another said they remembered that thumb ring from a tagged photo. Then someone found her video. And it spread. Fast. By the next morning, someone messaged me privately. Said, "You need to see this." They linked me to a Twitter thread. Over 20 screenshots. Side-by-sides. My story next to her posts. Timestamps. Inconsistencies. Public sympathy was turning. Her comment section, once full of "stay strong" and "you're amazing," was now flooded with doubt. Why'd you delete your old posts? Why are the dates all over the place? Wait, didn't you say he left? Now you're saying he ghosted? This doesn't line up with your vacation stories. She tried to clap back. Posted a new video. No makeup this time. Hoodie. Glass of wine. Try to play the raw, vulnerable card. Not everything on the internet is real, she said, eyes glossy. Just because someone tells a good story doesn't make them the victim. But it didn't land. People were already picking it apart. They didn't need my help anymore. The internet had teeth, and for once, they weren't biting me. But here's the thing. Even in that moment, I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel proud, or justified, or even relieved. I felt empty. Because even after all of it, after leaving, after finding out she'd rewritten my life like a Netflix script, after finally having a moment where someone believed me, I still missed her. I missed the idea of her. The fake version I fell in love with. The Emily who laughed at my dumb jokes and kissed me on the neck when I was too sad to speak. The girl who said, "If I ever stop seeing you, promise me you'll leave." And I did. I kept that promise. But I never expected that keeping it would cost me everything I thought was real. That night, I packed the car again. Not to run, but to finish this. I didn't know where I was going when I left the motel for the last time. I didn't have a plan. Just Echo in her crate, a half-dead cactus on the passenger seat, and a car that smelled like stale air and survival. But I wasn't running anymore. I wasn't hiding or unraveling or whispering apologies to people who never cared to hear them in the first place. I was starting over, and not in the dramatic movie way. No montages. No sudden abs. No new job in a sunny city where I meet some quirky girl in a bookstore. Just small things. I got a tiny one-bedroom apartment 2 towns over from where we used to live. No one knew me there. That was the best part. No looks. No questions. Just silence, the good kind. I got a part-time job at a used furniture shop. The kind with creaky floorboards and too many grandfather clocks. The owner, Jim, was 71 and didn't care about my past. He only cared that I could carry a sofa without falling over. I started therapy. For the first time in my life. The intake form asked, "What brings you in?" I wrote, "I don't know who I am when no one's lying to me." The therapist didn't laugh. She nodded. Week by week, I started pulling my identity out of the wreckage. Not the version she painted. Not the one I played into. The real one. I was soft, yes. Quiet. Emotional. I overthink things. I care too much. I cry during commercials. And none of that made me weak. It made me me. Emily's world collapsed in slow motion. Not because of anything I did directly, but because lies like hers can only stand so long under the weight of real people asking real questions. Her followers turned. Some stayed, sure. But her story changed too many times, and her crocodile tears started to feel manufactured even to those who once worshipped her. I never responded. Not once. Never made a video. Never posted proof. Never messaged her again. I didn't need to. The truth did the work. One day, months later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just my name in handwriting I knew like my own. It said, "You were right to go. I was wrong in every way that matters. I hope someday you stop hating me. But more than that, I hope you're okay." There was no signature. I didn't reply. I didn't cry. I didn't even feel the satisfaction I thought I would. I just folded the letter once, gently, and placed it in the shoebox next to the old planner page I'd carried for too long. Then I walked Echo out onto the tiny balcony of my apartment, sat in a camping chair, and watched the sun bleed into the trees. And for the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for the next shoe to drop. I wasn't trapped in someone else's story. I was free. Not fixed. Not perfect. But free.